And we are live. Hi, friends. How are you? Happy Tuesday. If you are here with us in person and live. And yeah, welcome to Empathy in Automation, where we have weekly conversations with experts in their fields on empathy and AI and the future of work. I am Sharon Steed. I am a keynote speaker and empathy consultant and a person who stutters. And so today I have Chris Schembra. He is a keynote speaker, a best-selling author, and he helps to build gratitude and relationships between individuals and organizations in order to foster deeper connections in an increasingly digital world. So, Chris, hi, hello, how are you?
Oh my gosh, Sharon, thank you for this invitation to be on your podcast. You know, we connected so many years ago, and our lives and businesses and mission and purpose have been running in parallel for so many years. To finally be able to collaborate and hopefully bring a little bit of goodness to your audience together, I'm really excited. So thank you for having me on. And it's such a timely topic.
Oh my gosh, it is incredibly timely, and I feel like we need to be having these conversations as often as possible. So give people just a little bit of background on you, just so they can hear in your words who you are and what you do.
Yeah. Thank you for that tee up. First of all, I'm so excited to be here because Workday, this wonderful organization in the HR space, Workday just published a study a couple weeks ago about unlocking human potential in the age of AI. And the two big blocks of skills that they showed, that they proved to be the most AI proof, to help you keep your job, excel at your job, grow in your career, etc. Two big blocks: human relationships and networking. And number two, emotional intelligence and empathy. And so the timing of us talking about what seems like in the past a throwaway soft skill is now becoming the skill set needed to unlock growth, change resilience, human potential in this new world of work. So the timing of what we're doing could not be better. To everybody, nice to meet you. I'm Chris. I'm calling in from New York City. I'm pretty simple. I'm a guy who's really obsessed with pasta sauce. And I know you're laughing at me when I say it, but without getting into the full story, at one of the deepest, darkest hours of my life, a period of which I felt lonely, overwhelmed, disconnected, insecure, went into a deep bout of depression and anxiety, I turned to pasta sauce to help me through it. I started hosting dinner parties in July of 2015 after getting back from Italy, where my whole world shifted and woke me up that success doesn't equal fulfillment. And even though my life looked great on paper back in 2015, it didn't feel so good in the heart. And I wanted to do something about that. And so I decided to host a simple dinner party. And here we are 10 years later. We've not stopped hosting the dinner parties. We've not stopped asking a signature gratitude question at every single dinner we host. And somewhere along the way, we got known for our thoughts on human connection, on relationship building, on gratitude, on empathy, helping some of the world's biggest companies unlock true growth and potential through an attitude of gratitude, asking better questions, having a positive shift in mindset, etc. So we've been on that journey for close to 10 years. It's a very abbreviated story of the journey, but it's been a pleasure nonetheless to, to be on the path ever since.
Yeah. I feel so connected to what you were just saying about how, you created this incredibly positive, beneficial thing out of the lowest points, of your life. Because I mean, I did a very similar thing, right? I was a stutterer, and like I was so terrified of talking to people. Like I was avoiding situations. I was having the most horrible time, like trying to find employment because I was just so uncomfortable talking. And so, like, I had come to this point where I had to really face this fear. And so I began public speaking as a way to just get a little bit more comfortable talking. And it turns out like that, just me like being vulnerable and me being willing to have conversations around this insecurity and around that vulnerability, it really did empower people and it inspired people. And now, I'm able to sort of create these very positive experiences. And so, yeah. And so I just feel like a deep connection with your own personal story of like how you got to where you currently are. So I don't know if I ever told you that, but
Well,
I do.
first of all, thank you, Sharon, and thank you for continuing on the journey, and thank you for teaching us, right, folks. If something hard happens in your life, if something creates a vulnerability in your life, what Sharon did was she did not ignore it. It took courage and strength to talk about it, to face it head on. But then what you didn't do is you didn't dwell on it. And
Yeah.
you didn't make it a negative part of your identity. What you did is you used it as a springboard to create connection with an audience, but then create positive experiences to not only help you overcome, but help them overcome. Folks, the truth is life is hard. And sometimes we're walking down the street and we fall into a hole, and then we learn some things and we struggle and we meet some people and we learn how to talk about that hard thing happening to us. But then with the right skill set and with the right mindset and attitude, you can start to climb out of that hole. And the funny thing happens, folks, all of a sudden you're climbing and you're climbing and you're climbing with all these new friends and all these new skills and blasting through fear. And the new sidewalk that you're walking down the street at is even better than the sidewalk that you were walking at before you fell. And so if you really look at that from a little, from a little perspective, right? You fall and then you climb and you carry on. If you zoom out, that's how life looks. We're all going to walk down the street and fall into a hole and learn some things and climb out. And that cycle is going to keep repeating itself. The cycle is going to keep going on. Hard times are always going to happen. But the good news is, with the right mindset and skills that Sharon teaches, you can make the hole that you fall in tomorrow, you'll get out faster than the hole you were in yesterday. Right? If you have the right mindset and skill set, you build resilience. Setbacks build endurance. Setbacks build connection within the workplace so that you can all rise out of it together. And Sharon, that's been your journey. You didn't dwell in the vulnerability. You didn't make it your identity. You didn't have entitlement or victim mindset around it. You learned about it. You talked about it. You connected with people about it, but then you did good for our world, not in spite of it, but because of it. And when
Yeah.
we find success, not in spite of, but because of our adversity, we all win. Woo!
Yeah, a thing like that was so surprising for me was that I found just a lot of happiness and peace in just being so vulnerable on such like big scales and on these big stages, and that it really did help me to better connect with people and to better build relationships, like both in person as well as on line through social media and video and all of that. And so I know that you have a lot of experience in this. And so how do you define like true human connection in, this increasingly digital world that we find ourselves in?
That's actually such a unique question. How do you define human connection? I
Mhm.
don't think I've ever actually been asked that exact finite question. It's funny. I came prepared to define what empathy means to me, what empathy is the start of, not the destination of human connection. I think human connection, I'll go back to, I'll tell a story. I'm a story guy. I moved to New York City on my 24th birthday, August 31st, 2011. I'm talking no job, no college degree, one suitcase, living on my buddy's couch in Brooklyn. I just escaped rock bottom. I was in and out of rehab, floating around in and out of jobs for a couple years leading up to what I thought would be my big break in New York City. I'm going to get here and the whole world's going to love me. Yeah, it didn't happen that way. Those first couple months in New York City were pretty tough. I was working part-time jobs just to get by. I was trying to find my footing. And one day, and this is going back to the definition of human connection, by the way. Don't worry. One day I got introduced to a guy named Tony. And when I got introduced to this guy named Tony, I really didn't know what a big impact he was going to have on my life. He was an old actor fella. He'd been a big actor in the 1970s and 80s. I'd been going around town saying, hey, I might want to try acting classes. So I got introduced to Tony. And Tony was kind enough, when I called him, very nervously, dialed his number. I had to Google him before calling him, and I saw that he had a legendary career, Academies, Emmys, Tonys, Grammys. He was part of all these kind of things. And I called up Tony and I said, can I come over and ask you questions about the business of acting? He said, come on over. And when I got to this guy's house, I came with all these questions prepared to ask him about the business. When I got to this guy's house, he opened up the door. He let me in. We sat down on the couch. He went over to the windowsill. And folks, you're going to laugh. He picked up a rock the minute I walked in. He brought this rock over from the windowsill and he put it on the table right in front of me. He said, Chris, I want you to ask this rock a question. This is like a 74-year-old like mafia guy, right? And I was 24 at the time. He said, Chris, ask this rock a question. I said, hey, Rock, how old are you? Hey, Rock, how'd you get here? He pushed me. He said, go deeper. I said, hey, Rock, what have you seen across the course of your lifetime? Things like that. Tony and I ended up talking to this rock, asking questions to this rock for 8 hours that day. We didn't even talk about acting once. Just talked about life. We had 2 different servings of pasta. We drank 2 different bottles of wine. I missed 6 phone calls from my father. All these things occurred. And at the end of talking to this rock, as I was walking in the door to leave, He put his arm on my shoulder. He said, Chris, what are you doing for money? I didn't really have a good answer. I was starting to strike out. These part-time jobs were starting to dry up. He said, why don't you come back next week? Put you to work. You can clean out my script closet. You can organize my phone book. You can drive me to charity events. Grunt work. Right? And like that, I started my first job in New York City. Tony didn't need the work done, folks. He was looking for connection. And so was I. Tony, some 74-year-old legend, saw something of himself in me, 24-year-old newcomer. And we go on to spend the next 4.5 years together, Sharon. 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, traveling the world, putting on theater that inspired people. Right? Tony was the actor, director, writer. I was the producer. We had different roles and responsibilities, but we woke up every single day with the same commitment, the same purpose. Create meaningful moments of human connection and help others have breakthrough moments in their life. And he spent those years putting an entire lifetime of wisdom, of challenge, of perspective, of pressure, to answer the question, pressure into me. By the time I was done, I walked out of that office 4.5 years later, a confident young man. I learned how to walk, how to talk, how to think, how to negotiate like a true New Yorker, directly from a Brooklyn tough guy. Right? Star of Academy Award-winning films. Right? So our relationship is the answer to the question you just asked. How do you define human connection? Tony, Papa Tony, as we called him, right? Our relationship was bound by the power of inquiry, intergenerational mentorship, conflict, challenge, but at the same time, high degrees of trust, safety, belonging, questions, empathy. So I think human connection, true human connection, is not softness. It's developing the trust necessarily to connect to another human being, a soul filled with intuition and wisdom and purpose that aligns with yours, where you challenge each other to bring out the best in each other. True human connection flourishes when we have the safety needed to look at another person, challenge their assumptions, ask them insightful questions, and bring out the best that they have to offer to humanity. And then you know what you do? You go out and do something together. And you make this world a better place in every single thing you do. To me, that's the true definition of human connection. It's not playing in the shallow end. It's not doing the soft stuff. It's challenging the ever-loving F out of each other to get the best out of them and yourself. That's human connection. When you got that, right, it ignites your soul, right? You lose sleep over it. You think about what they said. You think about what you can do. You ask questions like, what if? Instead of what is. How's that?
That's incredible. That is so beautiful. And it just, so, I'm okay. So I currently live in Philadelphia. And we actually just moved here about a year ago. And so I was like in this process of like I want to make new friends, right? Because like this was a brand new city, like it was a fresh start, but I've always been a little bit more on the shy side, and I've always had like a little bit of like social anxiety. And so, it takes a lot of courage to really put yourself in a place to really connect with a person, right? Because you are talking about things that are very personal, and you are putting yourself in a position to, consume personal content that this other person is going to share. And so, I have a tendency to kind of just be like, I don't want to go out to places because talking to people is hard. And then they're going to share things with me. And then I'm going to have to share things with them. And like all of that's really scary. And, it can just be like very intimidating to pursue those really sincere connections. And so when I, came here, I told myself I'm not going to do that anymore, right? Like I'm not going to be afraid to just like go out and talk to people. And so a thing like that just kept coming um into my mind as you were like telling your story was how courageous that entire process was. And so how did you find that courage to continue to pursue this, very sincere connection that you developed?
Absolutely fantastic. Thank you for sharing about that social anxiety. In the last year and a half that I've actually, in the last year and a half that I've had a concussion and what's called post-concussive syndrome, I've actually developed a tremendous amount of social anxiety.
Mhm.
I can imagine a lot of the people listening to this. You probably feel that social anxiety too. How could I call someone? How could I do that thing? How could I sit there long enough? How could I connect? Well, I think there's a big defense uh, or a big superpower. I think that can help you break through that anxiety. Um, and it's the action of just asking good questions and then just shutting up and listening. Right? When you're getting to know someone new, it might feel scary to have to share your story. But when you're getting to know someone new, you can gain confidence in just asking good questions and keep it about them and have them share their story. First of all, it's going to make them feel amazingly seen and safe and heard and validated, which builds great relationships, but you won't have to share anything vulnerable at all. And so I think Tony taught me the power of questions the first time we met. And then when I started hosting these dinner parties every week, once a week for free in my home, I had social anxiety around, hosting dinner. Is anybody going to show up? What if they have a bad time? What if I have to tell my story? What if the food sucks? But the one superpower I had every dinner was I would ask a question. And then I'd get everybody to go around sharing their answer. And that would take up the majority of the dinner. And so it wasn't about me talking. It was just me about creating the space for others to share. And I think that slight shift, right? I have anxiety about sharing my story. I don't have anxiety about asking good questions.
So when you are doing these dinners, in the beginning, the focus was on gratitude, right? And trying to, like get people to sort of think about their lives from a place of um, abundance and not
Mhm.
scarcity.
Mhm.
So, how do you think gratitude um, plays a role in maintaining empathy um, in this very tech-driven society?
Great question. Yeah, to everybody, I know I kind of skirted through the story, but long story short, what happened is I invented this bowl of pasta sauce and I figured I should feed it to people to see if it was even good or not. And that's when I decided to host a dinner party on July 15th, 2015. I invited 15 of my friends that didn't know each other over to my home for a simple bowl of pasta sauce. And we worked together to create the meal, and we had a shared group experience, and we worked together and served each other and sat down for dinner. And about halfway through that dinner, I paused all dinner table conversation and I asked a simple question. If you could give credit or thanks to one person in your life that you don't give enough credit or thanks to, or you've never thought to thank, who would that be? And Sharon, when we asked that, and all of us took turns, 3 to 4 minutes each, going around popcorn style, sharing our answers. Those were the best. That was the best stories I'd ever heard before in my life. And you know what happened? Pretty much everybody cried. We all told stories we had never thought to share. Some people hadn't thought to thank their mom. Some people hadn't thought to thank their grandma. Some people hadn't thought to thank their childhood art teacher. Some of them hadn't thought to thank their ex-girlfriend who cheated on them. Some of them hadn't thought to thank their ex-bad boss that taught them how they don't want to lead. The stories were amazing. And so if you look at the definition of empathy, and this is to answer your empathy question, empathy is defined by Roman Krznaric, the author of Empathy, Why It Matters and How to Get It, defines empathy as the art of imaginatively stepping into the shoes of another person, understanding their feelings and perspectives, and then using that knowledge to guide your action. And so when we ask this gratitude question and we listen to people's stories, their feelings and perspectives on something, some person outside this room will never meet, we were developing empathy. And then we sat with that feeling. We sat with those perspectives. We sat with those understandings. And then we left the dinner table and we did different things in the world based on what we learned that night. That's turning insights into action, because empathy without action is empty. And so gratitude stayed with us alongside empathy the entire step of the way. You can ask a gratitude question to understand others. At the same time, gratitude is beneficial just to give it, just to observe it, just to receive it within a team setting. And so when you share stories of gratitude, when you let someone know, I see you, you're appreciated, I value you, how they respond to that in itself is empathy. How they respond to you giving gratitude is empathy. They are understanding your feelings and perspectives by what you thank them about. So it's a magical, magical pro-social tool.
So when you were doing that first dinner, could you feel like the shift in the room when it went just from a bunch of people coming together to, eat and talk and hang out, like to an almost spiritual experience where people fundamentally changed? Like, how could you see that coming, and how did you foster that?
It's a great question. The long answer short, the TLDR is, oh yeah, you could feel it. right? Like Maya Angelou says, people don't remember what you did or what you said, but they'll always remember how you made them feel. The minute we asked that gratitude question and people started sharing their story, even just the minute we asked it, you could see the shift in people, right? Imagine this scene. Us around the dinner table, or for you listening, imagine you asking this in a boardroom or in a team meeting or on a customer call. Imagine you ask a good question. In our case, it was a gratitude question. Imagine you ask a good question. And then you just create a moment of silence to let people simmer on what you just asked. I mean, Sharon, people went from metaphorically leaning into the table just a moment prior, because I always set up my gratitude question with a funny joke, and it captures the attention and it makes people lean in, and I know how to grab the attention, right? I learned that from Tony in the world of theater and everything. So imagine they're metaphorically leaning into the dinner table, so excited, so intrigued. And then I ask that question. Sharon, they metaphorically sit back in their chair and they take in a cosmic, karmic, philosophical sigh. The biggest breath they've taken in years. And you know what it does in that moment? It shifts them from thinking anxiety about the future or thinking regret about the past, and it shifts them right there into the moment, into the present. And when's the last time you've actually seen someone live in the present? Bam! One question does it. And so I saw the body language of all these people before they even had the chance to share change. So then you come to the actual sharing, right? The sharing was deep and vulnerable and amazing and connected. And by the way, there's only about 10 different characters you can actually thank in your life: a parent, a friend, a grandparent, a dog, a cat, a teacher, a boss, a spouse, right? So all of us kind of found commonalities in each other's answers. But what was even cooler, Sharon, is not the people's shares. It's what was happening in their minds in between the shares. Imagine you're an attendee who accidentally gets called on last out of 15 people, gets called on last to answer this gratitude question. Who you were thinking of thanking an hour prior has changed about 10 different times through that hour. And who they actually end up thanking is a lot deeper than who they were going to thank, an hour ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? And how much of a metaphor is that for our daily lives, is that whatever rehearsed words you're going through your life talking about, hey, what do you do? Hey, tell me about your family. Hey, how's the weather? That's the bull honky. You have the potential to go 8 layers deep and help others go 8 layers deeper in order to actually create connection and help people talk about things they never thought to talk about in their whole lives. If you do that for someone, man, they are indebted to you and will build a relationship with you for a lifetime, guaranteed.
It's so interesting, right? Because like when we are, so I do just a lot of like keynote talks. I do like some conversation facilitation, but a lot of the times it's, in people's offices, right? And so there's only like you can only like get so deep, right? And then also there's this whole time constraint, right? Like you're trying to get people out of there in an hour and a half, and like I kind of always come back to like how, it is really challenging to sort of encourage this like sincere connection when we, are in a society, in a timeline um, that really prioritizes efficiency, right? And automation. And so, how do you, encourage some more intentional connection when we are in a world like that somewhat discourages it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Look, we're up against a multi-trillion-dollar industry,
Yeah.
right? But here's the truth. You teach people that life is a possibility of and, not or.
Hmm.
So you got to use the automation efficiency of AI and with that newfound free time, spend it on human connection. That's the best of both worlds,
Yeah.
right? So we're not fighting AI. We're and automation and efficiency. We are fighting for automation, efficiency, AI, so that we can use that newfound time on creative exploration, building authentic human connection, understanding emotional intelligence and empathy, understanding intuition, right? Connecting through intention, through purpose, all these wonderful, wonderful things that we know feels good. We just haven't had the time to do in a long time. So it's an and, not an or, first of all. Second of all, I'm bullish about the timing in the market. When AI, right? AI has been around a long time. When generative AI, very one subset of artificial intelligence, by the way, when generative AI launched to the public in early 2023, everybody and their mother was going, yeah, this is the way, this is the future, screw humanity, woohoo! It's been hilarious, and I predicted it, and I haven't wavered. Now the AI experts are actually saying, yes, AI can do the efficiency and automation, and you need to invest in your human skills. So the market is actually, the pendulum is swinging back around to say, ooh, don't forget about the number one thing we got. The only competitive advantage we have in the future is our humanity.
Yeah.
Right, folks, you're listening to this. You're a big leader at a big company. I get it. Your boss is cramming AI revolution down your throat. I get it. You are under big pressure to automate and outsource and lay off and cut costs and do all these things over the next 5 to 10 years. I get it. Big digital transformation. I get it. But so is everybody else. And you got to ask yourself, folks, if you're watching this, if AI democratizes access to answers and automation and systems and coding and everything, now everybody's got access to it. What are you actually going to do to stand out? What are you actually going to do to grow in your career? What are you actually going to do to win that next big B2B account? Human relationships and networking, emotional intelligence and empathy. That's it. AI is taking everything else. It's an and, not an or. I don't mean to scare you. I mean to inspire you.
Hmm. So then, along those lines, with companies having to sort of shift their perspective of how they are going to do business in this age of AI, what's the biggest mistake that organizations could potentially make when using AI in customer and employee interactions?
I first of all, I think there's some kind of data, and I need to find it, that it's like consumer when a customer sees AI, the word AI in a marketing thing of the product, I think they're more turned off than turned on. I think there was a study done about that or something. It's like, hey, let us sell you our AI driven, content creation platform. I think that
Yeah.
actually there was like a study done and we'll have to put in the show notes below or something, but like,
Yeah.
I think it hurts more than it helps from a matter of consumer preferences and trust.
Mhm.
And so I think the number one thing that I think a lot of people are using AI to create more efficient content marketing programs, which is cool, but everybody else is doing it. What they're not doing is building community, customer communities, right?
Mhm.
The age of your content being what helps you win the deal is starting to be over, because content doesn't mean shit these days.
Yeah.
Community is the greatest competitive advantage. And the new, God, I've been saying this for a decade. I'm going to go back and find a post about this. Community is the new authority leadership. You want to be seen as a recognized expert in a field, right? Let's say you're in a medical field and you've got 1,000, 1,000 doctors that have written great, doctor reports, big research reports about your product, or in your field. I'm using a horrible example, but let's say there's all these great thought leaders and customers and channel partners, all these things. Community will make you the leader of them, not content, right? So go out and host a customer conference for appreciation and loyalty. Because, by the way, customer loyalty is cheaper than acquisition. And those numbers grow even more going forward. Acquisition gets more expensive and more expensive as the days go on. Customer acquisition strategies through AI may be more plentiful. Now anybody can build an email list of 100,000 people and automate,
Yeah.
outbound,
Mhm.
but it's going to get more expensive. That cost per customer acquisition cost is going to be more expensive. And so community-based customer acquisition, something that AI doesn't touch, that's going to be, I think, if you don't invest in community, you're dead.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what? I have been thinking a lot about this whole concept of community, especially over the last like couple of months, and it really has like hit me hard in that like if you aren't actively involved in some sort of community, then you aren't actually helping to improve anything. And even if you're not like a, like big time like influencer type person, or you're not creating content around it. I'm talking about like just going to like a local soup kitchen, or like just talking to the people in your coffee shop for like a couple of minutes. Like, you have to be continuing to build community in order to really build these very like solid relationships, I think, because we are in such a digitally obsessed society, like where any opportunity like that you can build a relationship, creating and potentially growing a community in like a very, real and impactful way. And so, yeah, this whole concept of community has been like heavy on my mind lately. And I think it's because that's the only, like, as you were saying, like, that's kind of the way of the future is community building and community sustainability.
I mean, I need to build out a better, case study, but like, let's take Reddit, for instance, right? Reddit is the ultimate, right, capitalistic community builder,
Yeah.
right? So they saw long ago that they could create a community platform, subreddits on different topics and ideas, and brands actually get a higher return on their investment by sponsoring subreddit communities now than they do on a Facebook ad or a Google SEO, right? SEO is about to die,
Yeah.
right? Click, pay per click is dying, right? The ROAS, the return on ad spend for Facebook ads is just, it's more expensive than ever before, right? And so we've all hoard ourselves out to those, pay to play models,
Yeah.
and forgot to build community. And so now as those pay to play content models and advertising models go out of stock, community-based advertising models, like what Reddit has been doing for decades,
Very long
very
time.
well, very successfully. That's where we're seeing it. That, companies like Jamf, the Jamf is the largest tech, Jamf is the largest Apple support IT company for workplaces in the world. So like, if you're Xerox and you all use Apple, you belong to Jamf to get your IT support, right? It's IT at scale. Well, they have the Jamf Heroes customer community that Jenny Asaba runs. It's like 13,000 customers, and they have an internal community thread, right, with events and courses and awards and all these things. That's community.
Mm-hmm.
And that drives a big chunk of revenue for Jamf, is customer advocacy, customer loyalty, customer retention, customer community. Ari Hoffman's a big leader in this space. Jeff Brunsbach, Erica Kuhn from Salesforce, who built the Salesforce customer community. These things, these roles are growing while content teams are shrinking.
Yeah.
That's how it's going. That's how it's going. Post-sale customer roles, post-sale customer advocacy, loyalty, retention roles are growing. Customer support, customer success, even though you can automate a lot of that through AI and merchant success now. That's a whole nother thing. But that's the space to pay attention to.
Yeah, and then I think that a part of the reason why community is so much more important now, one is because consumers are just a lot more aware of how ads look and how ads feel and the entire purpose of an ad, right? Like, I remember when Google first started doing like the sponsored posts, like at the top of the search, and like I would always skip those, like, but apparently a lot of people were like always clicking those, and now it's AI like at the top of Google search. And so I think it comes down to just trust, right? Like, communities build trust in a way that a lot of other things can't. And I think that in a way, AI is going to help people build trust a lot faster because, it is going to take away a lot of the like background research. It is going to give you facts incredibly quickly, and it is going to cut through a lot of the things that people have to do in order to feel comfortable in a space, because a lot of the like smaller talk things, you don't really have to do that stuff
Well,
anymore,
I mean,
you know.
even as a keynote speaker, when I'm getting ready for events, and I did 58 keynotes last year, I'm doing this a lot. When I'm getting ready for an event, I'm putting the annual report of my client in AI with a series of my custom prompts to pull out exactly what I need in order to speak their language when I get up on stage
Yeah.
for that keynote. Not my language, their language. That builds trust. AI helped me with that. It cut through the bull crap. It found out that they said purpose 28 times in their annual report. And then you get to use the word purpose in your talk and speak their language, even though it's technically the chairman and CEO and the board who's promoting that word purpose down onto the people. But that's another thing. I'll just share an email, and I'm not going to say details, but I got a buddy of mine, a client, a friend, great guy, who's going to a high-level mastermind this weekend. I won't say which high-level mastermind, but it's tens of thousands of dollars for a ticket with 150 other founders and CEOs somewhere in America this weekend. When I asked my friend why he's going, he said, the community is going to give me the greatest dose. I'm sorry, that was my response. I have an idea that I think is good for an AI-based project, but don't really know who to trust to actually help build it. So I'm going to invest in the community to find those people. The other thing is, as I get older, I just find that business feels lonelier and lonelier. So just connection. I think that's the thing that keeps me coming back here. Trust and connection. That's it.
Yeah.
We're talking about a founder with hundreds of employees is going to another, mastermind retreat, paying tens of thousands of dollars for trust and connection. So folks, you better wake up. You got to do that in your own local community. Do that around your business, whatever. This is the way to get ahead, because this is what people are truly craving.
So then what role do you think that AI should play in, say, storytelling, or in preserving these more meaningful human experiences?
Well, so let me answer the second one first. What is the role AI can play? I'll give you the example of Gina Biancanini from Mighty Networks. Mighty Networks is a community platform online where communities, can be part of, an online hub of where this online hub has event feeds and member directories and courses and events and webinar and all this kind of stuff regarding the community. And I'm doing the worst job explaining what Mighty Networks is, but it's by far the best platform in community management.
Yeah.
One of their newly released tools is something called People Magic. And it's the idea of using AI to connect members strategically for introductions and coffee chats. Let's say you've got a community and you've got 2,000 people that are paying $2,000 a year to be part of your community. The Outlier Project, Impact 11. I mean, you name it. I'm part of a lot of communities on Mighty Network. Let's say you really only get a chance to meet like 20 or 30 of those people throughout the course of the year, but you're in a member group of 2,000. What if AI could magically match you up once every 2 weeks with someone new from the community that you have everything in common with, but you never thought you'd meet? That's moments of serendipity. That's what's called a casual collision. This is truly, when you invest in those kind of weak ties through a social network, using AI is what does the matching. That's where creativity, innovation, job promotion, and growth actually occurred. Mark Gannevorter proved that in 1973 at Stanford University's Strength of Weak Ties study. This is ultimately really how to build a network, and AI can power that. So the second part is, how does AI impact storytelling? One, it operates as a great thought partner and a sparring partner. I could sit here and make a voice note, as I do 50 freaking times a week, voice notes after voice notes after voice notes after voice notes. And you know what you can do with voice notes now? You click copy transcript right in the voice note. Click copy transcript, put it directly into AI, and whatever you want to say with it, AI can help you through it. You can look at AI and say, AI, what's the core truth of what I just said? Or AI, ask me 5 questions to help me think about how to go deeper with what I just said. Or, hey, AI, is my idea dumb? Right? You talk about a late night ramble, and you plug it into AI, and A is like, that's dumb. And you're like, okay, I'll wait until I've had my coffee to have another good idea. AI can, and so through the lens of storytelling, you then take those voice notes and you massage it with AI, and you insert in a couple different really specific prompts, like the insight-based talk track, the ladder of abstraction, the anatomy of an insight, the content blueprint block, a lot of these custom frameworks. And you put a story through those things using AI, whatever final product it spits out, I'm talking, Sharon, 3 minutes later, like all of this gunk takes nothing, no time. Then you get to take that and you get to add back in your own flavor, and you get to do this thing. And over time, AI gets to know you, right? Imagine me sitting on 2 books, thousands of LinkedIn posts, hundreds of online articles. I'm able to upload anytime I want the PDFs of me and put it into AI saying, you know who I am, read all this stuff. How would you approach this problem? I'm about to give a keynote to the senior leaders of a $94 billion commodities, $94 billion a year commodities company, whose net profit is down 56.54% in the last quarter alone. And I want to help them understand that the peak is the exception, not the baseline. Pull out my words, pull out my frameworks. What can we do together? What stories can I tell? And it's going to create something that I probably won't use, but it's going to make me think, oh my God, I didn't remember. I did a story like this 3 years ago, and it's in my body of work. Thanks, AI. Thanks for helping me remember. Oh yeah, it's for storytelling. It's God. It's magic. It's amazing.
Yeah. I feel like I get just like a ton of prompts with it, right? Like I don't like, I do like a lot of
prompts.
Oh, no. I get a ton of prompts from it, right? Because, I do a lot of like content creation. And so, like after a while, it's just like, I don't know what to create anymore. And then if you just go into AI and you're like, I want to talk about, how to communicate with a person that, you don't agree with, and I want to do it from like a new perspective. It can just give you so many things to talk about, and yeah, like it's so I was a little intimidated by it in the beginning, like, but now I've leaned all the way in. It just like it can like write things for you, like, but for me, it just, as you were talking about, it helps your brain to sort of go beyond where it would have gone on its own.
Mm-hmm.
It's been like invaluable.
For people who are listening, let me be really clear. Don't go to AI and say, hey, AI, write me a list of the 10 best ways to, build more mason jars into my business. You and a billion other people just asked the same freaking question and are probably getting the same freaking output. And all your shit's just going to look stale and boring.
Yeah.
However, if you go to AI and say, I brought my mason jar to work and I watered my plant and then I stubbed my toe and then I missed my meeting, but then I took a bath and now now I grew 3 inches. Help me find the learning lesson of that and the 3 core takeaways. And AI can help you right with that. So you got to have a good story.
Yeah.
And you got to kind of know where you want to go. It's the stories that will help you win. You don't just go to AI and say, write me a post about 3 ways to build psychological safety on a team.
Yeah, those are the worst.
Poo-poo.
They're horrible. And it's so obviously like AI, right? Yeah.
So don't do that. Bring your original story. Your original story is going to be needed now more than ever in order to stand out from the competition in this age of AI. I think branding firms, and I'm saying it right here, completely unthought of, unfounded, but I think branding firms will be so much more valuable. Premium, because AI can help you brand, and then AI can help you build the website based on that brand with the click of a button. The AI, the ChatGPT operator mode, it's ridiculous. But to build a premium brand with premium differential, I think branding firms are going to about to have a heyday.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So then for the final question here, if you could give one piece of advice to people who are navigating relationships in this like AI world, what would that advice be?
I would follow, and you can put the link to this in the show notes below. I would follow a 5-step framework. Now, let me lay it out for you with context. I got my start around the dinner table. Right? I got my start with Papa Tony.
Yeah.
Papa Tony taught me the importance of coming into the present, pausing, creating space for connection. And then I started hosting dinners, and I asked my signature gratitude question. And we kept asking this gratitude question. And that's when I learned the power of asking meaningful questions. And then I kept doing the dinners for a year. And all of a sudden, I realized that the more that I was savoring the experience of hosting these dinners and listening to the insights of others, the more I actually started shifting my mindset from what is to what if, from what's wrong to what's possible, from fixed to growth, etc. So then I went and I took action. I bought a box from Home Depot, and that was the take action, part of my life that showed the world I'm ready to put my pasta and pasta sauce and pots and pans in this little box from Home Depot and start traveling. We're open for business. And I kept doing that. And then one day I looked back at my life and I looked at all the hard times and I looked at the good times, and I could do nothing but just appreciate the journey, acknowledge, reflect the lessons we learned along the way. And folks, that was a very short explanation of my story, but if you look at the 5 lessons I just taught you through that story, Tony taught me to P, pause. The dinner table taught me to A, ask good questions. The dinner table also helped me savor, shift, S, my mindset. It also gave me something to T, take action on. And ultimately, I look back at my life to A, appreciate everything, the good, the bad, the ups and the downs. To all you spelling bee champs out there, what does that spell? Pasta, P-A-S-T-A. My hope for you as you leave this podcast is to go out and create space in your life. First of all, to take a pause, right? When you slow down just enough, 10 seconds before a call, 30 minutes before a client engagement, whatever it may be, when you take the time to slow down, you gain control amidst chaos. Pause is a wonderful thing. Number two, when you stop looking at the world thinking that you have all the right answers and you start looking at the world knowing you have all the right questions to unlock the potential and growth in others, that's when you really create connection. Three, when you really realize that all you got to do is just listen and savor and simmer and take in the high quality insights of those around you, you end up shifting your mindset to the positive, to potential, to seeing the good. And fourth, when you know that, you have the opportunity to take action on something, go and take it. And by the way, my buddy Ben says, if you're 90% certain of the right answer, press go. Otherwise, you'll spend 90% of your time on the final 10%.
Yeah.
I encourage you all to move forward with confidence, even when you're not 100% ready, because progress comes from movement, not perfection. And finally, that fifth lesson in the positive framework is appreciation. It's gratitude. It's looking back and saying that bad thing that happened to me, that was the best thing for me. The good thing that happened for me helped build me. Right? I like to ask myself three things every time I'm in a bad hole that you might be in right now. Number one, what inside of me is helping me get through this? Can I be grateful for that enduring personal resilience? Number two, who around me is helping me get through this? Can I be grateful to them, even though I've never thought to thank them? And number three, what about this negative autobiographical experience I'm in right now is actually going to provide a tremendous amount of positive benefits? Therefore, can I be grateful for my concussion, for my non-suicidal self-injury, for my multiple stints in rehab, the crippling debt, the anxiety, the depression? And if your answer is yes, if the positive far outweighs the negative, you could be grateful. And look, I know it's a tough world out there, but this little 5-part framework, which we'll put in the show notes below, I think can help a lot of people get through a lot of things.
Wow, that was incredible. You are so inspiring. Chris Schembra, where can people find you?
Follow me on LinkedIn, Chris Schembra. Let's connect there.
Wonderful. Well, thank you again for being a part of the show. And yeah, everybody, I will talk to you again next week. Thanks so much, Chris.